When was the last time you made a snap judgment about something or someone? Did you turn out to be right or did you jump the gun? As humans, we are hardwired to make decisions based on first impressions, but sometimes you get it wrong, you didn't have the full story, or you made assumptions to fill in the gaps. And when the shoe is on the other foot, when someone is judging you, it can feel like an injustice. But are there times when it's actually okay to judge? Because with me is Christine Bagley-Jones, our resident psychologist who joins me fortnightly for Head and Heart. Christine, is it okay to judge people sometimes if they're being really annoying?
That is such a subjective question, Deacon. You want me to say yes. I think the short answer is we're going to judge regardless. It's an automatic part of the human condition. So there's not a lot of point in talking about whether we judge or not because that just happens.
What's happening in our brains when we're making a judgment? What's the biology behind this?
Well, it makes perfect sense for our survival because we need to be able to make rapid decisions around our safety and our well-being. So being able to quickly decide if something is right for us, if it's good, or whether it's wrong or bad, will help us be able to thrive in life. It's just left unchecked. It can be a lazy way of operating in the world.
That makes sense to me if I'm like hearing a rustle in the bushes and thinking, a saber-toothed tiger is about to eat me, I'm going to run away. But it feels less useful to me when I'm meeting a colleague for the first time.
That's right. I mean, and that's where the word judgment it's a broad statement that's trying to be applied to lots of different situations because the judgment around the tiger is around being, I guess, discerning regarding our safety, whereas the judgment around someone's appearance or something more superficial is more just a preference. It's whether something's appealing or not. And then you have to question the utility of it and also the foundations behind the judgment, like where's it coming from?
Right, that's what I wanted to ask. Like we're not necessarily born... Well, we get biases that we accumulate across our lives.
Yeah, we're born with the inclination and the attribute of being able to judge. What happens, though, is it's moulded throughout our years. So it's the family we grow up with, how we are educated, the people we surround ourselves with, the information that we take in will very much influence and condition our judgment, often quite automatically without us even being aware of it.
So we're kind of gesturing at a lot of different things here. One of these things could be assuming that we know if someone's in an in-group or an out-group from us based on the way that we look. What about character, though? This idea of going, I can tell you're a good person, or I can tell that you're an untrustworthy person. Where do those judgments come from?
So again, I guess it's around survival and around keeping life a bit more simple to be able to define, is this right for me? Do I lean in or away? But you also have to just be sure that you're a quality judge of character and where you're getting your information from and how quick are you at arriving at that decision, because one of the big traps is we just have this knee-jerk reaction of judgment without taking that space to think, hang on, what am I basing this on? Is this something historic? Is this part of my conditioning? Were my family believing this? Do I currently still feel this way? And that's where we get the opportunity to do a bit of a deep dive into our own personality and values and what's important to us, and whether we need to place such emphasis on judging versus, say, being curious or allowing people the opportunity to be individual and that we could all operate together.
What makes someone a good judge of character? You sort of said, like, be a good judge of character. How do you flex that muscle?
Well, it's good that you say like muscle because it's not something we're necessarily born with. And I think the traits that will help elevate one's ability to judge well are around patience, not jumping to conclusions, being curious, and also giving the person or the situation maybe the benefit of the doubt to make sure you're getting all of the data, and then you're also then distilling it into your own profile to make sure that you're not just following a pack or some sense of belonging you're trying to attract by being part of a group, but actually, beating to the dance of your own drum.
You're listening to Life Matters here on ABC Radio National. I'm Tegan Taylor. I'm with our resident psychologist, Christine Bagley-Jones. She talks to me fortnightly for Head and Heart, and today we're talking about judgment. I'm interested to know where you give yourself permission to be judgy, or maybe what you think goes into the snap judgments that you make about the people that you meet. One person says, OMG, I think about this all the time. I have a snap judgment about someone and it usually has something to do with facial features. But rather than judging, I try to think about why this person has triggered something within me. What is it about me? They sign off Eve. Eve sounds very emotionally intelligent, Christine.
Eve definitely sounds like she's got high EQ because she's being reflective and so she's likely to be a pretty good judge of character because she's ventilating that moment of jumping into judgment and says, well, hang on, what else could be happening and what's happening for me and what other choices do I have? Like maybe not responding to the judgment and offering criticism or condemnation, because that's mostly what harms people, having to verbalize and exact some sort of consequence around the judgment rather than maybe observing it within yourself and letting it go.
So you're a psychologist. People come and tell you their deepest, darkest secrets. It must be hard to not judge, or at least not let it be obvious that you're judging.
Look, it takes work, and I'm glad that I'm at a stage of my career where it comes easily to me. But initially, I used to be quite shocked by some of the stories I'd hear, and I learnt how to lead with compassion and realise that, if people are coming to me, they're being humans in the world that are struggling, and me judging in that space is going to offer no benefit whatsoever. And I have a genuine desire to see the full range of a human. So it's quite easy with practice. If you put the work in, you can do well in making judgment not at the forefront of the way you operate. In fact, I'd rather think of curiosity like, okay, well, that seems like a challenging situation that you found yourself in. Let me understand more rather than, oh my God, what an idiot. Why would you do that? And, and I guess it's a privilege to be able to hear people's stories. So the last thing I feel like doing is judging them on top of that.
I'm hearing you say the word curiosity and compassion a couple of times in there. They seem like really good pillars for checking yourself before you rush to judgment. What if it's you that's getting judged? What if you go, oh, people are making assumptions about me? Like, how do I navigate that?
Well, it hurts. No one really enjoys being judged, I don't think. And they certainly don't like hearing negative things about themselves because it feels belittling. And often people will describe feeling very frustrated, misunderstood, narrowed down to one particular event rather than someone zooming out and maybe understanding more about them. When you're being judged, again, you need to have a steady understanding of who you are. So you can't be like a reed in the wind, I describe it, when you are affected by all the external things that go on in your world, or, life's going to be tough. You've got to have an inner knowing of your goodness, what you stand for. So when the inevitable judgments happen, which will occur during different stages of your life, you won't need to be as impacted because these people don't really know me, or what they're looking at is one element of it. That dichotomous black or white thinking, you've got to remember people are coming from a place of maybe their insecurities or their upbringing, and they've oversimplified situations. So try not to personalise it, even though that can be really tough.
Do we get judgier as we get older? Or does our filter come off? Or I feel like I'm just going to leave the question as it is. Do we get judgier as we get older?
Well, I reckon it's a bit of both. I think our filter gets a little bit exhausted. As we get older, I guess it's that conditioning piece, isn't it? It's like we're having more and more layers of conditioning and that confirming bias where we're seeing more information that confirms our biases over time, and we lose that freshness, that desire for growth, that when you're green, you want to understand things. You kind of get to that impasse where it's like, well, I kind of know, don't I? And that's an unfortunate space to be. That confidence is lovely in that, you're drawing from life experience. But if you don't still have a healthy open-mindedness, your life will shrink and your levels of joy will diminish. And then the second part is, I think our filter gets a little bit wayward because we just care less about how we're coming across because, we want to get our message across, or we're sick of suppressing our feelings. But again, at any age, you want to be responsible for the actions that you engage with and how you're impacting others.
On the text line, one person observes, for women, judgment can be a survival or safety mechanism. What do you say to that, Christine?
Completely. And that's around the safety bit. That's the one you talked about earlier around the tiger and the bushes. We need to have a heightened sense of awareness regarding our personal safety and well-being. And that might not just be in a physical sense. It could be in the workplace, an emotional sense. Women have to look after themselves in a different way. Again, it's around being discerning rather than maybe judging. And the judging would come from if they felt unsafe by one particular person, then generalising that might not be the best way to go about it.
One more from Scylla, who says, my best friend was having an affair on her husband. I understood because she was relatively unhappy, so kept things under wraps for a long time. But during this time, I witnessed her lying, gaslight, and be cruel towards him to protect her secret. I became highly judgmental and ended the friendship. The idea of what triggers mirrors. But when people are cruel, yep, I feel judgment can be necessary. Well, I did ask you when you give yourself an excuse to be judgmental. Scylla, thanks so much for that. And Christine, thanks for joining me.
My pleasure, Tegan. You take care.
You too. You're listening to Life Matters on ABC Radio National.